Can we improve processing speed in just 2 weeks? That's the challenge we're going to explore today.
Hi, I'm Barb with TheTutorFix, where Band-Aids aren't allowed and we get real permanent solutions by getting to the root of the problem. Let's dive in. I had a different video planned for this week, but I got a text yesterday from a good friend asking if I could help her improve her son's processing speed, her 9-year-old son. And she lives too far away to come into the clinic twice a week. So I was racking my brain, how could I help her? And there's an exercise that I do in the clinic here that helps with processing speed, but I do it alongside other activities. So I wasn't sure if it would be very effective by itself. But I thought, well, I've been wondering if it might be effective, so why not use this opportunity to try it out? So I asked her, I said, would you like to try this exercise and see if it helps? And so she was game. And so I thought, well, I'll go ahead and work up a video for her, and I might as well include my YouTube friends in this 2-week challenge as well, to see if it can maybe help your students. Okay, you're going to need a bunch of blocks. Any color will do. I suggest that they're about, I like the ones that are about 3/4 of an inch square, right, cubed, and in a multitude of colors, and 6 to 10 colors is probably good if you can get something like that. Preferably not the type that interlock, because otherwise the kids get all distracted while they're, trying to put out their pattern. So what you're going to do is you're going to lay out a series of 10 blocks. I have a sample pattern here in front of you, a sample sequence, and so you can kind of follow along. And so you're going to lay out this row of 10 random blocks, making sure that no two matching colors are touching each other, and group them into pairs. Group them into pairs of colors. And now show this row to your student and help the child create associations for each color pair. Most kids will do well with animals, holidays, and foods. And then build those into little stories. The first block is going to be the one that is on your right, okay? So you're always going to start from right to left for you, and your student will be sitting across from you, so they will be building left to right, which is it will help them to build tracking and directionality as they build, because that's the direction we read and write in English. So for this particular sequence, I might suggest something like, it's Christmas. There's a green Christmas tree with red decorations on it, and the girls and the boys are hanging up the star, and then they're going to leave carrots and cookies and milk for Santa, and it's nighttime. So those would be my hints that I might suggest for my student. Now, the student might say, like, let's say, for example, when I get to the yellow and orange, they might say, well, I don't want to use star. That doesn't make any sense to me, or carrots doesn't make any sense to me. I'd like to have the boy and girl eating lemons and oranges. And so, you want to go with what this makes sense to the student. Well, there's a lot of noise in the background. I hope that's not coming onto the video here. There's a tutor with a rather animated student in the next room, so hopefully that won't be too distracting as we go forward. Okay, so in the beginning, you're going to need to provide a lot of help in coming up with the associations, but after a few days, start encouraging more independence with your student. Still offer suggestions, but always let the child choose. That makes it more meaningful and more memorable for the child, okay? Once the student has created their memory clues, cover your blocks and ask the child to rebuild the sequence from memory. They can build in pairs or in a single row, whatever works best for them, but try to keep the movement left to right. They might occasionally skip a block because they can't remember it and then come back to it later, and that's fine, but the general trend should be left to right. After the student is done building the sequence, lift the screen and have the student compare his blocks with yours. Encourage him to find his errors and correct them. Then, have the student review their hints and build again. Once the student can do it correctly, now the fun begins. The student is going to build the row as fast as they can 3 times, each time trying to beat their previous record. Record the fastest time of the day. That's it. The whole session should take about 5 to 6 minutes. The first few days may take a few minutes longer as you and the student get used to the concept, but after that, it should go pretty fast. Most students, even as young as 7, eventually reach a speed of up to 1 second per block, sometimes even faster. Repeat this exercise at least once a day, using a new color sequence each time. You can do it up to 3 times a day, but space the sessions out with at least an hour break in between to give the brain some rest. After the 3rd time trial with the first row, if your student is progressing well, you can eventually add a second row of 10 blocks. Follow the same steps. Add a second row with a new set of 10. Be sure the second row is placed closer to the student so as to imitate the lines of print. When the child builds both rows, they must complete the first row before starting the second. Time all 3 builds again and track the best score, this time using all 20 blocks. By now you should be seeing your student building the sequence faster, but the improved processing speed might not be translating yet into daily life.
That's where the concept of speed dial comes in.
I first read about this idea in The Gift of Learning by Ron Davis, where it is called the energy dial setting. I like to use the concept of a dimmer switch as my analogy. Most students understand that when the light is low, it's dim, and the less energy is being used. And when the energy is up to the highest setting, the light is brightest. We use this image to talk about how, depending on the task, we apply different levels of speed or energy to different tasks. If you're running a race, you might need to use an 8. Talk about how running with a 10 might lead to an accident. Walking in church, perhaps use only a 2 or a 3. Doing chores, perhaps a 4 or 5. Doing schoolwork might depend. For example, a math drill sheet, the student might want to implement a 7 or an 8, whereas if they're having to read story problems and use a strategy to solve it, they might need to slow down to a 4 or a 5. So each activity can be judged individually based on how much speed how much speed is appropriate for that activity and how much concentrated effort is needed. And I place the different activities on my chart for the student to see. Then, when you go about daily life with your student, you can see how they're working and ask them, what speed do you think you're using? Is that the best speed for this activity? Do you think you should speed it up or slow it down a little? Maybe if they're dawdling on a chore, you can encourage them, can you turn it up 1 notch or something like that? And this works well for kids with attention deficit as well, to help them slow down their speed and concentrate a little better. So it just helps them monitor and it kind of empowers them to monitor their activity level a little better. And it gives them an awareness that they can choose the different speeds that they're using. Okay, so now you've finished the 2-week challenge. That's how long it usually takes to see some gains in the speed building part of the activity. But if you really want those improvements to show up in everyday life, like finishing chores or math drills faster, you may want to keep going for a full month or even longer. Go ahead and do the exercise for a few more weeks and be sure to incorporate the idea of speed dial throughout these 2 weeks, not only with their chores and schoolwork, but also with the block exercise. What speed do they think they're using? Can they increase it a little? Should they increase it? With time, you should start seeing these processing speed gains carry over into everyday life, whether it's chores, worksheets, or sports. This is still an experiment. So, I'd like to hear from you. Did it work? When did you notice improvement first in the block exercise? But more importantly, when did you see a change in everyday life? Let me know in the comments below. So thanks for joining me, and I hope you'll take the challenge along with my friend and let me know how it goes.